That's what I really am, and all I want to be. It may take some time, it may be hard to find, but see me beautiful.
I remember Annie telling me one day that she was with Marshall and he was standing in front of a newsstand with the New York Times and staring at it. And she said, "Why are you taking so long?" He said, "Well, I only have 50 cents. And she realized that he was financially impaired. And this is a story she told me. She asked me, "May I have permission for my spiritual work group to work on your financial well-being?" And whatever it is they did, his finances shifted after that.
At one point, there was someone who knew the Rockefellers in New York. And it was arranged for Marshall to meet one of them. And he went to New York of his own volition and payment. And he said that you're doing so much without any organization. So he gave him a check for $10,000 and sent him on his way. So Marshall turned it over to me. By that time, I knew I could organize, which I did not know before. And Marshall said, "Start organizing for me." So for 7 years, the Center for Nonviolent Communication was my dining room table. So I put out the newsletter painfully because I did not type. And I had bulk mailing parties. And each time it was more people because he was working all over. And the first newsletters were just Marshall visiting other places. I remember one bulk mailing party that I dragged the bags down to the post office downtown. And I was in a line, and it was a long line. And someone moved to the head of the line and put his bags on the weighted floor. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to kick him in the groin. And I was amused because with all the NVC I was getting, that was the last thing I wanted. But that's what came up in my mind. Kathy and John Baker had board meetings in their living room. They were both on the board. Kathy was secretary. And Bob Miller and his wife came up from Austin, Texas. They were on the board, and me. That was it. Gary Barron was the executive director for quite a few years. his wanting to give the store away because someone had a business connection that was very strong, and he wanted to give them full legal authority to teach teach NVC in business. So I stopped that.
When we started to work together, I didn't even have a fax. We only had telephone. Internet was not active at that time. The fax came the year later, and coming into where this fax machine stood, I could have 20 meters of fax on the floor, because suddenly people know where he was, and then suddenly everything was going 24 hours a day. It cost more than $2 a minute to call US at that time. So there were three things that really triggered the work, and that was Marsha's book was launched, the 9/11 happened, and internet came. That's when the whole thing started to spurt. And his burden was also much more heavy when that started.
I remember talking to Marshall about certification. He was the first one and only one to certify people. It was a long struggle. We spent years and years wanting to certify people, and Marshall kept saying, "No, I don't want to be that organized," because he had mixed feelings about organizations. When we finally offered certification, it was about 94 or 95. But he had certified several people before that. He would send them to me after they were certified to do the paperwork. And I would slow it down because I thought the people were not ready. He went only by at an intensive training. He would go by their spiritual consciousness. He had never seen them do a workshop or didn't know what they knew about NVC. I got the notes of a workshop he did, I think in Switzerland, with other certified trainers. And he talked about a whole different process that was based on merit and competency rather than you get through a series of workshops and then you're certified. As in a college diploma. And that was all it took for me. I didn't even write him back. I put out a call, and there were 9 of us that started to write the certification document. And they fell by the wayside over the course of 1 or 2 years.
I started to organize for Marshall, and I kept organizing for him about 15 years. And I was involved, and I did 2 terms on the board together with Rita and several other people. So we got to know how double it was for Marshall to see an organization growing. And with us as trainers wanting a certification going, which I also would say that it was very double for him. Did he want to contribute to label people like certified trainers? Did he want to have an organization with an office? I guess it had to do with his strong need of freedom. That an organization could start to kind of tell him what to do, what he had to do in order to keep the organization. And he was not in any way willing to sell his freedom out.
Marshall did not like organizations because he just wanted to work with a few people and get the word out. So we went back and forth for many years. He just wanted people to share what they knew. And he still offered that, even if you were a certified trainer. It was just a matter of sharing nonviolent communication. Ultimately thought that I need to get organized to get the word out to the whole world. And that was when certification happened. And Gloria Rosenberg, who had gone to India and came back thinking, there is no executive director, I'll be that. And she lasted for a year and a half. And it ended with a divorce.
I want to live compassionately at each and every opportunity. I want to give away the love that's mine to give. I want to live compassionately.